I didn't think of those things to say. I was just trying to say what I was feeling and hearing, in my heart. And from that point on, that's what I always tried to do was trust what it is that I'm spiritually feeling, right? And put the keys and combinations and melodies and touch to what it is that I'm hearing and feeling, right? And which is a lot of times I can't just go back and play what I just played. You know what I mean? Or I can't. Fred is just good with taking a tape recorder, and if me and him are around each other, you got to watch Fred pick up a tape recorder because he good for saying, "No, go back to that. What you just do?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't know." He's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I got it on tape. Let's go back and visit it." Example of that, I was in a funeral one time, and little kid, he had to have been no more than 12, 11 or so. His dad had passed away, bodies in the front. I'm looking at this little kid on the front row crying his eyeballs out. And I just felt, I could not leave this melody for nothing. The whole funeral, I kept going back to the kid's seat and playing this particular melody. Kept going back to it. After the homegoing service, I went to the studio. Fred was in his chair on the phone, and I go over to the keyboard, hit a few buttons on the board, and I started playing it softly while he was on the phone. He said, What's that?" I said, "Man, it's nothing. It's something I just been with me all day." He said, hit the tape recorder, hit the tape recorder. So I just played it real quick, boom, 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 hit the tape recorder, played it again, and then gave him the tape, and I left and I went home. The very next day, Fred is at the studio. I get up there nice and early. He's in the back by himself, lights dim, red, crying with the microphone in front of him as he's sitting in the chair. Fred would cut his own vocals sometimes in the dark room or whatever. And he came up with the lyrics to this song. And this was a game changer for me. And the lyrics to that song, the song, first of all, is Yes, My Father Was slash is. So if you listen to the lyrics to that song, talking about who was there when I first opened up my eyes and all of this, and yes, my father, like he's always been there. He's never left you. That was a song musically that was ministering to that young kid at that time. Fred takes the melody to that song at a whole nother time and pulls out the atmosphere, the lyrics that were assigned to that melody. Perfect melody for the chord structures, perfect words for the melody and the chord structures, and you have a song that is meant for somebody.
Mm.
And we recorded it. And that's how you got Yes, My Father. Okay. And same thing with songs like No Weapon and Living Word. A lot of those were just created right out of the atmosphere. They weren't songs that we just got into the studio and decided, "Well, we need this kind of vibe." No, we get them out of the atmosphere when God is moving, when God is operating. What is he saying? This is what he's saying.
Mm.
Just to be close to you is my desire. I mean, so when I go around teaching about writing and different things like that, to me there is three different ways of writing. You got creative writing, where you're sitting in a room and it's like, let's create it. Let's and then you have, inspired writing, where something inspired me to write this. You ever just ride and drive and he's like, man, I got a song in my head. Something
Yeah.
inspired it. And then you got prophetic writing, where it's spontaneous and you're playing what you hear, and you're in that moment and you got something right there. This is what the Lord is saying, ABCD. So yeah.
Uh, and for people who that are musicians, I honestly believe that the time spent between you and God with your gift gives you more of a makes you more proficient in the prophetic writing. I think that there are ways that you can improve on your creative writing based on who's in the room. Walking into rooms with people who think differently than you, who word things differently than you, to have a different edge on their sound, and so that can sharpen your creative writing. Inspired writing can be inspired by you paying attention to the things that
Mhm.
are around you. I wrote this song
Mhm.
years ago. There was a friend of mine who, horrible story. Let me just go ahead and tell you. This is a horrible story. Man, my boy gets married, super rich dude. Dude gets married, falls in love, gets married, and I mean the I've never seen a spread like this. Like literally, he got married. The wedding reception was in his hangar at the executive airport. Crazy. I sang
Mhm.
there. Crazy. So a couple of years later, mad cool couple. I'm over there. You know, he loves music. So I'm, just one of those things. He's much older than I am, so he kind of takes me under his wing for whatever reason. I don't even know because he's not really a musician. But he just loves music.
Mhm.
And so, um, comes home one day, and the safe is open, and I think it was like $1.2 million gone from the safe. The kids, she had children before they got married. All of their closets were empty, just gone.
Mhm.
Oh, that's right. And this happened when he went to bury his mom in Maine.
Mhm.
He came back from Maine from burying his mom, gets to the crib, kids' clothes are gone, the
Mhm.
money in the safe is gone, she gone.
Mhm.
And I went over to the house, and he's just crying, bawling his eyes out. And again, at the time, I'm a teenager. So I'm like maybe like 17, 18 years old. And this dude at the time had to be like 50 something. And I'm not understanding why I'm in the room. And he's crying and he's crying and he's crying. And I remember us sitting in his living room, and I'm looking at, because on the front on the coffee table was all of these jets. Like these, like, how we go to the musician's friend magazine and stuff like that. He was getting ready to like buy a jet. So all these different airplane things was on the table, and he's sitting there in this big mansion crying his eyes out. And he says, and the worst thing is, Christian, I never saw it coming.
Mhm.
I never saw it coming. It's like I'm conflicted. I never saw it. And when he said I'm conflicted, this whole song, it was wild. It was
Mhm.
wild. So I left the crib, went to my house, and wrote this song. By the end of this song, I'm gonna need some answers, and you better be honest with me, because I always know when you lie. At least I used to. My friends are telling me that they saw you on the other side of town. Something's going down, but before I get defensive, I'm willing to listen to you. This caught me all by surprise. They suppose that you just say it wasn't real, so they text the picture,
Mhm.
right? Then it says, I'm conflicted and there's no way to tell. It's ballistic and I'm not doing well. Should I love you? Should I hate you? What do I do? You got to tell me. I'm conflicted and I'm falling apart. Should I've given you the key to my heart? Will you take me? Will you break me? Just maybe. Can I believe you? And I wrote this song. I put the whole thing down and tracked it or whatever. And like an idiot, I took it over to the house and I played it for him. And at the last tag of the song says, "Why do people fall in love if you can't trust the one you're with?" Right. And at
Mhm.
the end of the song, he's crying. I'm crying. And he says, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, and I never want to hear it again." I was like, "Yeah, no." I think of it. But what it was I was able to capture what all of his emotions that he could not express with his own words. And I was able to take that was inspired writing.
Yep.
If you pay attention to moments, then you can improve that.
Yep.
Prophetic
Yep.
writing, on the other hand, comes with you spending time with the Lord. And that's exactly what you're talking about you doing.
Yep.
I remember hearing stories about, like, before you guys rehearsals with the Inner Court record and stuff like that, how, and the Spirit of David record, and how you guys would pray and like just tarry before the Lord and all this other kind of stuff. It's no wonder why those records carry so much weight.
Oh yeah. No, our rehearsals were prophetic.
Yeah.
Um, at at a lot of moments. It's like, Fred groomed us in such a way that camps just weren't practicing on a diligent basis. It's like he was he was pretty strict, and passed it on down. Like we couldn't eat Red Devil potato chips.
Oh,
That sound crazy, don't it? Like the Lay's, they were so hot they were called,
red.
and yeah, it had a little Red Devil
Yep.
picture on it.
Yep.
We had, like Bible discussions on what made that inappropriate.
Mm.
What made that bad? Like, what do we stand for and what do we don't stand for? So we had our own like little private boycott on them Lay's Red Devil potato chips, right? Like, there ain't no bringing no monster drink up in the studio.
Mm.
Just it was things like that. We knew we prayed though. Like, man, we used to band would get up early at 6 o'clock in the morning. I bring, some donuts and coffee or whatever, and we get in there and we would literally go in praying for an hour or so before we start rehearsing. Then we would rehearse for hours and then eat and shoot some pool, talk junk to each other, and go back and rehearse again. We had seasons like that. And so we became this family, under this umbrella called Face to Face, where we spoke the same thing, believed the same thing, felt the same thing, supported each other. And it was really like a healthy lifestyle of do's and don'ts and accountability at the same time. So that kept us in a place when we had rehearsal, we had the freedom of everybody's gifts being at the altar. You know what I mean, to
Yeah.
to a certain place, and Fred
Yeah.
being in the middle, it was like service. A rehearsal was very much like service,
Man,
and it's
that's
like
crazy.
we would rehearse perfection, and there was always room for the unexpected and for the prophetic. Always room. So it was songs being birthed in the middle of rehearsal and stuff like that. And then we never got too deep into rehearsing like the prophetic. We always kept that in its own place and in its own space, to be reverenced and revered. So it's like, yeah, you don't practice just to be close to you is my desire.
Mm.
You just don't practice that because we didn't know that song would come out right in the middle of a recording. That wasn't a song. But we knew we could get to a certain point in that service where them gifts, and I don't know if you would recall, sometimes Fred would toss that mic to Kim Rutherford, who would grab that Bible and open up a scripture, would just do
Yes.
something totally different. Or David Ivy would take the microphone and he could flow, where he wanted to flow, or AG could grab the microphone and punch through the atmosphere and choke the mess out of you, and give it back to Fred, and Fred would be tying everything back up in this nice big old package, and you've eaten for that afternoon. That's what we counted on. We counted on like it was warfare for us. I remember one time we went to this place, bro, called is it Oneida, New York, or something like that? I can't remember the exact city, but this theater we had went to, we had gotten all kind of rumors that this theater had been shut down for quite some time. It had might have been a couple years or so because a specific rock group, very well known rock group, had went in there and shut that place down with all kind of activity. It
Oh,
hadn't been the
snap.
same. It was a very very dark place, and we had to go in there and do a concert, and you could just feel the heaviness in that place and the darkness in that place. And our conversation was nothing but, why are we here? You know what I mean? Why did God send us here? ABCD. And we would have, prayer in the back, and Fred would tell me and the band, go out there and just create warfare. Go play for 15, 20 minutes. Just y'all do what y'all do. And we would go out and prophetically just play. And by the time Fred would grab that microphone from behind stage, it was enough torn down, in the atmosphere that made it easy for him to come out and go to a whole nother level. And it was that type of service. It wasn't concerts, man. It was real services that you had to be ready for. You just had to be ready. They were life changing. Here's the thing: we wanted to make sure that our music that we put out and records reflected the moments that God was having, or what we were doing, and they did. They did. So yeah, it's an experience. Now, who can get in the way and want to share any type of credit for that? You shouldn't. It's
Mm,
on. It's like you can't. It's like
mm.
God does what He wants to do. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah. The only spirit that can do that and feel comfortable to do that is a Luciferian spirit.
Yeah.
The same one that was like, you ain't all that. I'm the one who, I'm the anointed cherub that covers. I'll make my throne and I'll do this and that. It's that level of pride that gets him cast down, and not just him, but convincing a third of the angels to fall with him. So that is unfortunately where we find ourselves in this day and age. I remember we were together, bro. You have been blessed, and we have been blessed to have you be a part of the changing of sound, the sound of the direction of the that music went. Either with you were with Fred, when you were with Iz, and then we were together with Martha.
Hmm.
I remember this one particular time I almost died uh, in the elevator. Uh, and we were in Dallas, Texas. And we went to this convention or something like that or whatever. And I was in the Omni Hotel. We stayed in the Omni Hotel. That's when the elevator fell or whatever. And we performed late that night. Well, we get there, and I remember specifically thinking, because I was naive enough to think, oh man, this is my first time going to this particular conference. I was naive enough to think that, man, if we experience what we experience in these spaces over here, in these churches and these the small places and this place that or wherever we are, that you get all of us together in one room, man, we about it's gonna be a man. That atmosphere was the coldest.
Hmm.
I've never felt more uncomfortable in my life.
Hmm.
I would have
Hmm.
rather been at a club playing
Hmm.
behind coming after. Wasn't Trick Daddy good tonight? Trick Daddy,
Hmm.
ladies and gentlemen. Now we're gonna have Martha Muniz come on up and do it. I would have
Hmm.
felt more comfortable in that room than in
Yep.
this room, surrounded by people that they call God, we call gospel artists and stuff like that. And literally, the atmosphere was thick as a Snicker. It was
Yep.
like,
Yep.
how does that even happen?
Yeah.
How does that happen? I'm waiting. I'll
I
wait.
don't know. I don't know.
I don't get that, bro.
I don't know, man. I think where God is invited, He'll come. And if you don't give Him any room, He ain't there. He's not gonna go against your will. And ego and His presence, they don't necessarily mix well. You know what I mean? It's just I get nervous like when people say too much about me.
Mm,
I back up. Like,
mm,
no, I get it. I learn how to say thank you now. And sometimes people take that as arrogant. But what am I supposed to say? If you say, no, Hall, you were so important to me in my life and this and that, and man, you're this and that, and boom, boom, boom. It's like before I like give a nod because I was afraid to say, seriously, like thank you, because I know me. I know where I come from, and I know that that's really the Lord, you know, who used me. And I don't know how to say thank you for something he deserves the credit for. Yeah, I get a little bit more seasoned and older where it's okay to say thank you because you know what people mean, or thank you for allowing the Lord to use you, because even that's a choice.
yeah.
And so I can appreciate that now. And it's very recent that I have been able to kind of look back and see what I didn't see before. Like, over the past 6, 7 years, I just kind of went back and looked like at all the credits and all the work that I've done since 1989. And it's like, bro, your name has been active with publishing music every single year from 1989 till now. That's a lot of work. Either you've been writing, producing, arranging, or something. Your name is published every year for how long is that? 30 plus years? 35? I don't know. Something is it's a lot of time. And I had no idea, just looking like, wait a minute, my name is actually on about 54 gold and platinum records between the two. That's a lot. That means really hardly anything for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I
Mhm.
got a few of them I have at the house, but it'd take a lot of money for me to go back and
Yeah.
purchase all them gold and platinum. And for what? Well, I guess for legacy.
Mm,
Um, that's important and things like that. But when I really, really think about it, it's no good on my own, bro.
yeah.
It's just the Lord, and I kind of want to stay in that place, you know.
Yeah, man. I love the fact that when God brought the children of, this is a little pivot here into a deeper part of the conversation, but when God moved the children of Israel supernaturally out of Egypt, right, brought them into the wilderness to test them, to prove them. One of my favorite parts about that whole thing is that he would show up as a pillar of fire at night and a pillar of cloud during the day, and when the cloud stayed, they were supposed to stay, and when the cloud moved, they were supposed to move.
Hmm.
And it speaks of not getting comfortable in one place or the other. What happens when the cloud moves from a place that you love? What happens like when the cloud stays over a spot that's lush and it's got the, man, it's that good grass over here, boy, it's
Hmm.
that boy, and the
Hmm.
stream, and there's a stream who's, it's just a beautiful, just, I mean, the trees, fruit trees, and all this other kind of stuff or whatever. But then it's like, all right, let's go. It's like, but we like it here.
Hmm.
We can make idols out of anything. We can make idols out of a good place that God, a great place, a prosperous place that God has moved us to. But then when the cloud moves, it's time to move. Like, has it been difficult? Because I know you talked about from Buffalo to Detroit. Was it that was private? That was, yeah. Thank you, Jesus. Answer the prayer.
Yeah.
Was it difficult? Have you ever experienced a time when the cloud moved and you needed to now separate yourself from a land that has been good to you, a land that has been very prosperous, and go to this place that, like, like he's used to saying that I'm going to show you? Like,
Yeah.
have you experienced that, and what was that like? That transition like?
And one of the hardest times in my life, one of them, and that was um, the transition I made with Fred. Um,
Hmm.
I moved to Detroit, and Detroit, the city itself, it was represented by what I did in that city and who I was tied to in that city. And like I said, face to face was my family. And being mentored and groomed and taught for so long, and all of my maturing and all of my growth and everything being directly up in that family, and the development that came from Fred and the closeness and the brotherhood and all of that stuff, I had to make a decision to move on from the capacity that I was operating in with Fred.
Mm,
And it was one of the hardest decisions, but I remember my last date. Like, I remember, I call it grace lifting. It's
mm,
not easy to do what we do and to travel and to stay in all these different places and missing home, and you gone for 4 months and stuff like that, and you come home and you don't remember your child crawling, you just remember you see him walking,
mm,
but it's like you miss out on a lot. And so it takes strength to deal with some L's and stuff like that. But I remember, one of my last gigs, I was like, this the last one. Like, it's time for me to come off the road. It's time for me to come off the road. I did it long enough. I don't feel like it no more. I'm
Mm,
not tired. I just don't have the grace to do it
mm,
anymore. Like, the work ain't in me to do it anymore. I don't think I'm supposed to. It's not the same. I call it the grace lifting. Um, and so, and then what's provided, what's needed for you to continue to do it at a level that's respectable, um, that goes. It's like, nah, before I start giving less, accept that the grace is lifted.
yeah.
And so I made a decision. And I remember having a conversation with Fred. Said, it's time for me to come off the road, bro. I'm gonna go ahead and dive into the church. I'm gonna get my minister's license. I think I need to really dive into that area and dig into the family a little bit more and then see what the Lord has for me. It was hard. It was hard, and I could see, the disappointment and hurt, but understood standing with Fred, because that was a connection for a very long time. And I'm like, no, the connection don't have to go. Just how I'm operating, I can't do the role no more like that. It's not good for me, but, studio writing and all that stuff like that, man, I ain't going nowhere, you know. And shortly after that, that's what I did. I dove into the church, dove into home more, and then that's when the doors started opening up to become my own producer and not a co-producer, and it's time for me to do it on my own. I didn't think that was coming. Like, I wasn't looking for that at all.
Mm. Oh,
I
got you.
wasn't looking for that. And I think Men Standard was the first project that came through. Immediately after that, it was Martha. I got this phone call from Martha that was very, very unexpected. And she reminded me of a conversation that she and I had had during a conference. I gave her my phone number if she ever needed me, give me a call kind of thing. And she looked it up and said, "Hey, the Lord just showed me your face. I'm in a decision making thing I'm going through right now, and I don't know what I was going to do. And the Lord clearly gave me your face and said, call you. Are you ready to do this? A, B, C, D." I said, before I even thought about it, I said, absolutely, let's do it. And then I slept on it and I called her the next day. I said, Martha, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you just go and let me bring Fred in on this.
You
Let
know
me
what I was
call,
thinking? You know what I
because
was thinking?
this is, I'm thinking like this is gonna be my first live production on a major scale. I got to do by myself. Like,
Mm. No Limits was the
let
first live you did on your own by yourself?
the first live that I oversaw production, everything, and she let me have all the decisions. So it's like that was the first one, and I had to come behind Aaron and Israel on a great record for her.
Good luck.
Oh, right. So I'm like, let me go ahead and get Fred on this. Like,
Mm.
and she said, well, Noel, if you really want to, that's fine if that's what you really want to do. But I have to tell you, the Lord showed me you, and I'm not so sure you're supposed to,
Woo.
So I would trust this. I think you're supposed to just do this. I said, okay, I'll go for it that way. And it was um, one of the easiest transitions and recordings that I had ever done in my life. We wrote so well together. We worked so well together. She let me bring in all of my team who I had wonderful relationship with. There's no way in the world I could have pulled it off without my right hand man, Eric, who's my workhorse, man. And we just vibe so well together. We just know each other so well. And so, naturally, he's the first person I called. And then I started putting the rest of the team together. We had a dynamic team. Of course, Calvin Rogers, um, Terrence Pump, and all these guys are producers in their own right. But the relationship we had, man, we yielded to each other, and that project, wow! I remember sitting on the piano. No, before I sat on the piano, I remember getting ready to come out on stage, and I just kind of peeked behind the curtains and I looked in that church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
At Bethany Church.
And the church never looked so big in our rehearsals. But when I looked, and it was packed.
To the gills, bro.
And I looked even closer, and the first 5 rows or so was nothing but industry people. And I'm seeing Israel and everybody that's in the industry, all the executives, everybody just all up in, and I'm like, oh my, I had gotten nervous like for the very first time. I honestly, I had gotten nervous. I got nervous. I really
What?
did. So I turned around, I walked outside, and I called Bishop Merritt on the phone.
Mm.
And I called him Pops. And so he answers the phone and says, Pops. He said, what? I said, I'm scared. He said, he kind of laughed. He said, of what? I said, and I explained the whole situation. I said, this is my first, I never did this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going through. He just kind of laughed. He said, well, you just do what you do every single Sunday. You're called, you're anointed to do this. You just do what you do every single Sunday. There's nothing to worry about. So let me pray for you. Now, in the name of Jesus, God, and he started praying for me. And I absolutely felt no better. I ain't feel no better. As right as he was, I felt no better until I
Mm.
went and sat on the piano or on my keyboard rig. And the rest of my team came out. We came out at the same time. We were like soldiers, ready. And we came out and we took our positions. And when I sat down,
Ah,
kind of and just postured myself, when I tell you this is the God's honest truth, and this stuff is going to be in my book. I mean, I'm going to do a book.
do it.
I felt, I felt God personally in a way I don't think I ever felt him before. Like I felt him personally. I'm hoping I don't tear up if I start really describing. I felt this heavy robe, like, and it was warm and safe. It felt priestly in a way. Like if I had to describe a priestly robe, it
Mm.
felt like a priestly robe. Like it covered me and it was so powerful and warm. I couldn't take it. Like I had to gas and I couldn't take it. And I remember leaning over to my right and I started hollering, bawling, and crying because that it was so powerful and so loving and so safe and equipped.
Mm.
And it gave me everything that I needed. When I couldn't cry no more and I let it all out and wiped my face, I literally felt like, okay, these 88 keys, I can do whatever I want to do. I'm going to change the atmosphere. I feel like the, the master that I should be, with the spiritual confidence that I should have,
Mm.
trusting in the Lord 100%. Like this is it. Something special was going to happen. When I tell you I had a ball playing that night, I had an absolute ball playing that night.
I was
All of
there.
us
I
did.
saw it.
Ooh. It was a point in that thing, man, where we was hitting that Jesus is the best thing. That thing just exploded.
I said,
That thing just exploded and wasn't even playing.
man, talk box was man. Listen, that thing. It was.
Roger, the talkbacks. I
I
said, ooh.
I said, okay, this is another literally, bro. And you have to understand from my perspective. Um, I was nervous because that's when I was asking you to redo the keyboard track that you did for me that one time.
Yep.
So I was nervous because when I came into rehearsals and stuff like that. But man, when I walked in and I look at you, I see Eric, I see Calvin, Daryl Dixon, I see I see Terrence there. I'm looking at the team. I'm seeing Japan, bro. It's like what is
Everybody.
happening in this room?
Yep. It
And
was good.
that night was I hate to use the word magical, but it was amazingly everything that it needed to be.
Yeah.
And I did not know. I had no idea that you felt the way that you felt going
Ooh-wee.
into it.
Yep, I never felt that way again. Cause and I needed that. It was the perfect experience from the time we had that conversation to the time it was over and put out, and
Mm,
even after that. And then I gone on to do some other productions with different people and stuff like that. So man, it was just a journey. Those kind of moments. I don't want to do stuff unless I have those kind of moments where I feel like I'm not good enough, and but what is needed that's going to make a difference, all of it um, is dependent on what God is able to do, and then I have to trust God. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's when something special happens. Like I don't want to feel overly. I'm always. I'm gonna say I'm prepared. I'm prepared to lean on God. I'm prepared to to trust God, and that's the job will get done. I don't look to do anything that's going to fail.
Mm. Ask
First I'm gonna pray.
Samson.
Hmm?
Ask Samson what it feels like to
Mm,
to shake yourself like you did before. And I'm gonna just knock these things out. I'm gonna just knock these boys out like I
mm,
did last time. I got it.
mm,
Man, I remember one time when I bought my first purchase from American Music Supply was a quick lock stand. I bought a, That's my first purchase with my own money, $80, like $89. Had it delivered to the house and everything. It was beautiful. In fact, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. My dad was living in Charlotte. My parents had divorced at the time, so my dad was playing for this church in Charlotte. So they were in a YMCA. So we would go there and set up and everything like that. So I had so we would my brother and I, my sister and I, my brother, sister and I would come up on the weekend, every other weekend, and spend with dad. So when we come up, dad had a second keyboard, so he would put the second keyboard up for me. Now, mind you, I'm like 10, not 11 or 12. Greg's on the drums, my brother. Dad's on main keys. I'm on aux keys, whatever. But this particular day, I had my shipment from American Music Supply.
mm,
And I'm telling you, my quick lock stand, I walk in there with my quick lock stand. Like a single tier quick lock stand. I'm like,
mm.
yeah. So I see dad every week. Every time we finish playing, he sits down and he takes the keyboard off and puts it in his lap, and then adjusts his stand and pulls it down and stuff like that. I'm like, nah, quick lock, doc, quick lock. So I wait. Now this is the arrogance of a young man. I wait for my dad to go ahead and sit down and put his keyboard in his lap. But then I was like, after he finished, I was like, psst, quick lock, doc, quick lock, doc. I put my hand in the middle because in the middle they got the little circle with the little thing with the
Yep.
little thing. Now I was
Oh
like,
Lord.
I said, quick lock, doc. I put my hand on that little lever. I was like, pop. The keyboard stand falls flat. The board hits my leg and slides out across the front of the stage where everybody's looking. I'm now embarrassed like crazy, and I'm the doggone. I mean, it's just actually I don't know what happened. I hit the demo, but
Oh no,
it's
no,
dude, it is
no.
disastrous. And I finally get out all the pieces together and figure out how to put the thing in, and I set it up and sit down, and I'm red as
Quick lock.
scarlet. That's exactly what my dad said. He said, "Psst,
Quick lock.
quick lock, doc, quick
Quick
lock."
lock.
In that moment, I learned, like never before. The scripture says, "Let a man who thinketh he stands take heed lest he fall."
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to be in a position where I think I got this and I can do this without him.
Yep.
I don't care if this is the 115th time that I've done the same thing, the same show, the same song. I do not want to walk into his presence with this air that I got this.
That's right.
Because the moment we do, we get inflated with pride and it's not about him anymore.
Yep.
So I'm doing these
Yep.
workshops, these music workshops now for the first time in my life. And like with almost basically putting a community choir together kind of thing. And we're singing songs, bro. The same stuff. For you alone deserve all glory. For you alone,
Ooh
and
wee.
brother, all of that kind of stuff. And every single time I sing these songs, what I've been singing since the Praise in the House record came out,
Mm-hmm.
every time I yield myself to that moment and allow God to use, it feels like the first time.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid I ever lose that, man. I don't care how many
Yeah.
stages we step on. Let us never get
Yes.
so arrogant to think that we can do this on our own.
Yep.
We
Yep.
can't.
Yep.
I don't want to be that dude
Yep. Yep.
because I know what that dude looks like from my perspective.
Yep.
I know I've walked in rooms and people it's like whoa, this ain't about him at all. That's like having a
Yep.
birthday party and the birthday boy never shows up, but you still eating the cake, listening to the music, and left
Yep.
foot stomp, and right,
Yep.
y'all doing the wobble, but the birthday boy ain't even here, and nobody cares.
Yep. You know, a lot of people don't even they don't realize, like a lot of people don't realize the history that Fred carries, and and his investments that they carry. Like when I listen to songs like that, what you just said, like "For You Alone" and "Joy of My Desire" and "There's None Like You" and all that stuff like that. Those songs were introduced to the urban church through Fred in that Praise in the House record, and then the other four that followed it. Like that was a contract, between um, Hosanna Music, Maranatha, or I think it was Hosanna with Don
Yeah.
Moen and Fred, because I think Don Moen and a few others had recognized that Fred had um, a certain appreciation for what he was hearing, but it wasn't introduced to the urban church. But the spirit of that music, um, or the spirit of the music that we were doing through the inner court and spirit of David, resembled that. And so it was like, if we can get this guy to take our music and just do it the way he does his music,
Right.
we can get it into the urban church. And that's what we did. We recorded. I would take a set of songs and arrange them, and Tommy would take a set of songs and arrange them, and then Fred would go in and arrange his stuff, and then we all just bring them together and just boom, 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 boom. And before you knew it, you got "There Is None Like You" that sounds like the way we would want to present it, with protecting the integrity in which it was written,
Mm.
and then guarding the spirit, at the same time. And so those records was popping up everywhere, and those were our records. Their songs, but our interpretations of those songs. And that's how those songs got into the urban church. And before you knew it, you start seeing praise teams popping up everywhere where they weren't, singing those songs and like songs. And then and then Iz jumps on the scene, and you know what I'm saying, who takes the formula that was already there, to a degree, and does it Iz's way. And then you had this whole fluctuation of other stuff, like it's like wow, and then other people catching on. And now, before you know it, you got churches all over. They don't have church without praise and worship music. Before, it wasn't no praise and worship music. It was testimony
Testimony,
service,
devotional service. Yeah.
devotional service. But now, and so that's the effect, and sometimes, I can be honest. It's like it sometimes it takes a lot for a older, seasoned me to still be humble enough
Mm.
to explain, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, to to folk who still need to learn and appreciate and understand, like, the importance of maintaining certain things. And I got to do it without saying, "You do know I wrote that, right?" You know what I'm saying? Or you do know that I originally recorded that, right? Like you do, and I can't do that,
Mm.
because it comes across a certain way.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? But that's what it is when you're teaching and trying to mentor and educate people, to stay on the right path to growth. You know what I mean?
brother. From the seat that I sit in, to have the access that I have to you and to Fred and to Don. Don, if you watch this, call me back, bro. You hit me back. Anyway, I got a chance to look Diamond in his face and tell him thank you. I got a chance to look Fred in his face, yourself, and the team that put these on. Because, bro, back in the day when you were able to take a CD and put it in your CD player and program songs and put it on repeat, my brother and I would listen to the 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 worship songs on that um, Praise in the House record on repeat all night long, bro. We would put it on
Mm-hmm.
repeat. I'm talking about I'm in middle school, bro. I am in middle school, turning over in my bed and hearing "You Are the Peace That Guards My Heart," and waking up physically in the middle of the night, feeling like I walked into a conversation that my spirit is having with the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And going turn going back to sleep.
Yep.
It's just
Yep.
like
Yep.
that shaped me. And so, on behalf of the millions of people who now have in our community who have an understanding and have a hunger and a desire and a drive for pure worship unto God, whose relationships with God have had your music, your pen has been the soundtrack for our relationship with God. For the millions of people that will never be able to say this to you face to face, bro, thank you, man. I thank
Mm.
you for your willingness to pray that 35-second sincere prayer in Buffalo, New York, that eventually that God heard, that you knew God heard,
Mm-hmm.
that when he brought the answer to you, that you didn't give it a second thought,
Mm-hmm.
that you moved on that because your obedience to move on that and the deposits that were made in you have shaped our our Christian lives, bro.
Mm.
It has brought us to a deeper level of intimacy and hunger with God, man, because we have these we have this amazing soundtrack now that we can pull on, that we can refer to, that's like, man, when you hear that song, for some people it's when they hear that for them it takes them to that place.
It does, right?
For me, it's
Wow.
that
Wow.
that's that for me. So,
Yeah.
brother, thank you, man.
Wow.
I need this is one of the reasons why I was so excited to have this conversation with you, because I want to tell you, man, that you were essential. You were
Wow.
necessary, and you will never know. For we may never. You'll never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You will
Yeah.
never know until you get to glory, bro. You and your squad, bro. You and the team. The day that I met you guys at the Glaxo Welcome Tour in
Yep.
Fort Lauderdale, bro.
I remember.
When I
Yep.
got to when I got to set up your keyboard station, and you had the mixer down by your board, and I'm like, you're like, yeah, turn that up, turn that up. I'm sitting there like, like a little puppy, like, this is, the crew, bro. And I got to serve you in that way, and following that up with serving you on the road with Martha. And
Mm.
I never saw that coming.
Wow.
I never saw
Wow.
that coming, bro. And so I'm grateful to God for this relationship, man. And I need you to know that not only did you inspire me before I knew you, but even this conversation is a huge inspiration to me. It is a shot in the arm, because it helps me and hopefully the people that are watching this to remember we ain't got no ambitions. Our only ambition is him. Our
Yep.
only drive is him. And if
Yep.
and if we fight to maintain that, to keep that, then he will honor us with a sound that we can't produce on our own.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, thank you,
Mm-hmm.
dog. This is life to me, man.
Well, one of the biggest gifts you've already given me, I don't even know if you know, but I remember, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. I was in my house and I remember I was mopping my floors, and you called and said, no. I said, what's up, Christian? You say, hey, man, you got a second? I said, yeah, man, for you, I do. And you said, bro, I got a good friend of mine. His name is David Outing. He said, I don't know if you know David. Do you? I said, I don't think I do. He said, man, this brother has been hoping he could get you on the phone one day and talk to you. And I said, man, throw him on the phone. Throw him on the phone. And what he said to me it was a game changer. It
Wow.
was it was so humbling, and it was a game changer. And he reminded me of a moment that we had when I was traveling on tour with Fred, and he was a little kid. And he said that after the concert, his dad brought him to the front stage and asked that me and Tommy would pray for him or something like that. He said he was very, very young. He said he would never forget that I laid my hands on his head and said a prayer for him. That was something about the grace and the anointing that God allowed me to flow in, cover him with it, and this and that, and he said from that point on, everything changed for him as a writer, producer, and the whole nine, and that he had never forgotten that moment, and that he had waited so long, and just to have an opportunity to tell me, how much that mattered to him. Now, that's not something that I did all the time. Like, I
Mm.
was trying to hurry up and always get out of people's way, but I do remember that. I remember when he started telling me, and I think we both was getting choked up. I remembered that moment, and by the time me and him had gotten off the phone, man, I was praising the Lord and thanking God that I was obedient. You remember I said success is predicated on your ability to hear the voice of the Lord and then your willingness to obey.
Mm.
That I was hearing and sensing that this is something you're supposed to do, and I was obedient to do it. And then all these years later, he gets to tell me how that affected him and that he never forgot. I don't know if everybody knows David is one of the premier producers in the game right now. I mean,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
he's the truth, and I appreciate the relationship and the moments, and it was just a wake up call that, bro, every moment is really a moment you don't know how it's going to come back, whether it's a bad moment or a good moment. You got to be careful with what it is that we do. When the Lord gives you an opportunity, you don't know who he sends to you or who you are sent to, for what reason. And as ministers, we have to be equipped to optimize the moment and hear God and just be obedient. Just be obedient, and that's it. So that was a good wake up call. I was like, wow, 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 wow. I'm glad that I listened, and then I'm going to listen even more. So I've become very vocal about my experiences. Like, people need to
Mhm.
hear my experiences. So sometimes your own experience is not always the best teacher. Somebody else's experience can be a better teacher. If I can tell you
Mm.
what not to do, you can probably save a limb not doing what you was going to do and
Right.
not have to pay a price for it, if you can trust that my experience is the real. You know what I'm saying? Don't go left, bro. Some snakes over there. You don't want to do that. You might make it, but you're gonna lose something. You don't want to do that.
Mm.
Just go this way.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think it's people need to hear the experiences and the stories. My story is not like everybody else's story. Everybody else's story is not like somebody else's story. If you ask me, how did you get put on, bro? You know, how'd you get the opportunity to record with Fred? How did you do this? How did you do that? Man, I cannot have a story that everybody else got. Like, yo, I submitted a tape or a CD. I did a demo. That was not my story. If you want to hear my real world story, it was a one on one with the Lord because I needed to change, and then He did the rest. It wasn't even like I was all that good.
Mm.
Fred did, groomed the heck out of me. Like, no, take your left hand out. It's too full here. No, just do this. Simple. Boom, boom. Taught me how to program according to how he wrote. You know what I mean? How to place stuff according to how he. That's how I was programming music before that, but it was the way I did it. But when I got with Fred, he changed my game. And listening to him and then getting even more grounded spiritual really was just a game changer. So it's like, that's my story. You know, ain't everybody else's story, but it's mine. And I'm sticking with it.
And I'm sticking with it.
Facts.
This is the one and only. No middle name Hall.
You you know this interview could go another 2 hours.
It could easily. It could easily. And we gotta have you back on, bro. I gotta have you back on because there are generations of those that will come even after us that need to hear this, bro. That need to see the level of the recognize the body of work,
Nice.
but also see and know the humility and the story behind it, because God is no respecter of persons. If we honor him, he'll honor us.
Yeah.
And so that's all. That's your story. Your story to me is one of a man who honored God, who God honored.
Amen.
Period.
Amen.
Man, brother, I love you, man.
Man, back at you, bro.
Let's do it again sometime.
Very, very soon, man. Love you, man.